mindset matters. Okay, imagine if you are a C-level or a director. Get out from your function. See how you fit in your organization and how you fit in the industry. Be curious, be innovative, ask questions. You need a little bit to get out from the traditional mindset of the leadership. No, it's the shifted from fixed mindset into we call it growth mindset. And what is this fix? Now it's more about empower and influence, create psychological safety within the board. And I can share my ideas without blaming, get out of your comfort zone, and vulnerability is a strength.
Welcome to the Mindset of Modern Leadership, where we explore leadership, mindset, culture, and transformation through insightful conversations with executives, leaders, and experts shaping the future of organizations and people. Today, we are joined by a guest, Maria Georgaki. Maria is an executive coach and leadership transformation solutions partner with more than 30 years of experience working with leaders and organizations across diverse industries and global markets. Maria is a master certified coach accredited by the International Coaching Federation and specializes in growth mindset across teams and organizations. Hi, Maria. Welcome.
Welcome, Delal. Thank you.
I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time now, so I'm happy we're getting together and discussing a little bit about growth mindset.
Yeah.
So let me start with the first question. With your extensive international leadership experience and diverse professional journey, we're excited to learn more about the path that shaped your leadership philosophy. Looking back, was there a defining moment that changed fundamentally the way you lead?
Thank you, Delal, for asking me this question. Actually, my whole professional journey, it was learning experience for me. And if I go back and see, I graduated, my first bachelor degree was statistics and actuarial. And then I did my MBA. Entering the business, I entered the insurance companies. Instead of going into actuarial, they put me into the training center. So I started training people, the programs, sales techniques. And it was a moment to realize that I had to shift from this actuarial. I had to stay within the soft skills, the trainings, and the programs that I was interested more. So from the first job, I realized that it was better to do another master in HR instead of becoming a certified actuarial or following the actuarial studies. So the first job, it was the first journey into development of people and leadership. And I remember the next position that I had, it was in a big international advertising company. And my responsibility was to set up the academy for the Middle East. So I went to the University of Barcelona, that it was for Europe, and I had to set up a similar one for Middle East. And it was an experience. Imagine now how young I was. I was 26 years old, with all these very creative people from advertising, very different from the industry of insurance. Try to understand what they are doing, first of all, and try to establish everything in Cyprus, that it was the academy for the Middle East. There, it gives me the diversity to accept the people from different cultures, be creative, that they are innovative, that they were thinking in a definitely different mindset from mine, that it was more structure. So at that point in Barcelona, I woke up one morning and I said, I want to have an international company that is human-centric. So it was from the insurance industry, the human-centric, and more HR, and from the advertising company, the international, I wanted to go into international, that I would face these diversity mindsets. So from that moment, I started my international company's journey, and every company gave me something. I went to a market research, the biggest market research company in the world, Nielsen. I stayed there 6 years. There, we were the head office of emerging markets, 42 countries, Eastern Europe, Middle East, Africa region. Imagine, Dylan, how many people we had? 200 people at the head office. It was 20 different nationalities. I learned to respect the diversity. Doesn't mean that I agree with them. They have different experiences. But it was different people that we are all professionals and all doing our own job. So from Nielsen, it was again how to work, how to communicate with the global office, within countries that we have different colors, different religions, different languages, different experiences. And when I shift into a global position in HR, and it was more working of Eastern Europeans and especially Russia and let's say, USSR countries, I was facing I remember I went to the office in Moscow, and it took me a year to create relationships building on trust. Not because it was something personal, they didn't like me. These people, they wanted time. To work with them, knowing me better, start talking, listening a lot, respect them, understand them where they come from, and why they are more introvert from me that I am extrovert. And I'm coming from an island that 80% of the people, they speak loudly, they are colorful, we are Mediterranean, right? We are different. So understanding this, coming where they are and have an empathy and getting into their shoes, it helped me understand how they see things that I couldn't see the things. And I always had in my team a Russia speaker to help me what they're telling me, to see the other side. And then I came to UAE for an international position, and I used to travel a lot to GCC countries to see the Arab world with a different lenses. And I started also my career in coaching when I had to listen more, empathy, be more curious, understand the people, the background, not to judge. I had the judging because I was also perfectionist. And the perfectionist people by nature, they judge, they are very strict. So I think the coaching journey, it changed me as a person. And my leadership philosophy became different. And I do appreciate cultures. I do appreciate diversity. And I understand that in our days, that is very complex. And there is a lot of uncertainty. And there is a lot of ambiguity. Mindset matters.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking me through your journey. I mean, it sounds a little bit, not a little bit, very interesting. From a young career, already you were exposed to different experiences, to different cultures, and also I can see that patience of wanting to be in other people's shoes and understanding that. So that must have been a very fascinating path that has taken you actually to where you are today. And that brings me actually to my next question to you, Maria, which is, you have been an expert in organizational culture and a certified in, in assessing mindset, across individuals, teams, and organizations. Based on client work and experience in this field, what does an executive mindset mean in today's leadership environment?
Yeah, it's very nice, and thank you, Dele, for asking me this question. It's a mindset, executive mindset. For me, there are different angles, that different perspectives that you can see. It's the first one is the strategic perspective, to be able to zoom out, to see the organization from different perspectives, to see them from different pillars. Okay, imagine if you are a C-level or a director. Get out from your function. See how you fit in your organization and how you fit in the industry. Be curious, be innovative, ask questions. So the first one is the strategic perspective. The other one is, for me, of course, it's how decisive, how you take decisions when there is a risk, when there is a change. It's how you collaborate with others, how you stop micromanagement and see and the things in a different way, how you delegate, how you empower your team, how you give trust to the peers, to the system, your visibility as a leader. This is part of the mindset. It's you need a little bit to get out from the traditional mindset of the leadership that we had 18 years ago. With the artificial intelligence, especially after COVID period, that everything is more complicated. There is a lot of uncertainty. We need to go and create the mindset that there is a resilience.
So I'm hearing from you that traditionally we were happy to have a static mindset and do things traditionally in a more stiff way, whereas now with all the changes that are happening, be it COVID, be it now we are in the Middle East as well. We had the war with Iran. Unexpected things. You need that shift. And I'm hearing that you're saying that curiosity, being 10,000 feet away to understand the strategy, putting yourself into other people's shoes, stay out, also get out of your lane. Don't stay only closed in your own department. See the big picture is key in shifting the mindsets for modern leaders. Is there anything I'm missing here?
No, it's the shifted from fixed mindset into we call it growth mindset. And what is this fix? It's the way that they were thinking in the previous leadership that there is a failure, you know what I mean? We need to be perfect. It was a little bit of this blaming around that it was more silos than the communication to be more transparent. It's I will say more casual the structure. It's not a casual, but there is no this authority and control as before. Now it's more about empower and influence. It's that you are allowed your employees to have a say in a meeting. It doesn't matter if you are a partner. You are allowed someone junior because this generation might have something to tell you that you don't know. This humble leadership, the more human-centric culture, I would say.
I get you. So listening to others, even if they are actually below you from an organizational perspective, don't overuse authority. Try to use more influencing skills, inspiration as well, I guess, towards the younger generation. Because as you say, the newer generation, they're much more vocal as well about what they want to bring to the table, the purpose they want to drive. So it's key to allow them to do that as well. Very interesting. So I know as well you work with boards of directors. What does it mean for today's boards to lead with a growth mindset?
Again, I mean, if we go out of the traditional boards, I would say that in today's boards, when we want to create a growth mindset, it means that they have to become more curious about it and not asking questions. And asking questions, especially the executives and the CEO and other people in the organization, to bring a different learning, create psychological safety within the board. There are board members that they are more quiet from the others, not because they don't know. It's because sometimes there are people that they have stronger voice and more loud voice. And if you don't create the psychological safety that we are all in a board, executive and non-executive, and I can share my ideas without blaming, then we can hear something else. So for me, growth mindset in boards, it means innovation. It means take the risk in a different way. Be more curious. Allow technology and see from a different perspectives. Create psychological safety. This will bring them in a different era than before.
I see. It seems like, try to not to have it just from a governance perspective stiff, but have it as a conversation where everyone feels comfortable to contribute. Not having one dominant voice, ensuring that all voices are being heard and everyone is respecting each other, but also keen to learn from each other and keen to exchange with each other.
Yeah, live the values of the organization that they represent as ambassadors of the boards is also important.
And what do you mean by that? Leave the values of their
chair, be at the board, take decisions. It's a very important, the governance is very, very important for the organization. Each organization, they have their own values, okay? And sometimes they frame them at the enter of the buildings, or they have it at the website. But the question is, do you live your values? And if we start from the leadership, that the leadership should start living the values and they should lead by example, we have to start from the board also. Do they live the values of their organization that they represent?
So it means, how do they blend with the organization where they have their board position?
Yes.
Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. Now, coming into the organizations, and I know your career has been organizational culture, and transformation. From your experience, how does leadership shape and influence organizational culture, particularly during periods of change?
Yeah, I think leadership is very important to cultivate culture. What I mean by that if you are a leader, not only the CEO, everybody in C-suite and executives there, you have to lead by example. And what I mean culture, I mean what is the systemic beliefs that they have, the values behind, this is what is about culture, right? And how they behave, the behavior behind. And this has to be in a more holistic approach. And I will give you an example. Let's say that we have the culture, how they behave. Is the behaviors aligned with everybody? Do they behave with the same way? Or in some departments, some functions, they have different behaviors. And if you are lucky within this department, I am a happy employee. And if I go to another department, this leader has a different behaviors, the whole department is more toxic, and I don't want to go there. So is all leaders aligned with the same behaviors? Do they live the values? Do they lead by example? What is the role, again, if we are going to connect the dots, the board with the organization? How do they behave? And this one, if we put it in the system, it has to be from even the policies and procedures, right? How they recruit. Do they recruit people sharing the same values? Do they fit in the organization? Do they promote and reward people accordingly? Do they empower and influence people, or they have control and authority? Do they have a toxic culture or a healthy? So the leadership, if you're asking me, is the people that they defining the culture. Because if there are behaviors within that they are not according to the organization, they should release it. They should not allow people to behave as they behave or have the same beliefs that they should.
Yeah, makes sense. We see that sometimes in organizations. So from what I'm hearing from you is that consistency in the behaviors. So not only talking about it, but observing it and seeing whether it is being consistent and being rewarded or punished the same way. Because if you leave someone in a certain toxic behavior and don't do anything about it, that's going to influence the culture in itself. You talked about toxic culture. So in general, what's a toxic culture if you had to define it?
It's when you wake up on Sunday and you don't want Mondays because you will have to go to that work. It's because you start having migraine and because you are going to face the people that you don't want to face. So toxic environment, it's when you go to work and it doesn't make you happy because the behaviors of the people is completely different from you. And not only that, your values are not aligned with their values. And this is what is a toxic environment. And most of the times there is a lot of blaming. There is no real accountability. When there is a silos and competition amongst them. There is no real collaboration. There is no real respect. They just go to work, receive the salary, go home. And by doing that, you don't have a real accountability. You don't care.
So it looks like it's precisely when an organization doesn't really work on its culture that this might happen, that everyone becomes individualistic. The blaming culture then comes up and nobody tells them that they are not allowed to have these kind of behaviors. Is that right?
Yes, and then the performance will go down.
Yeah. I see some of them. Yeah. Now, in this part of the world, sometimes when new companies come up and scale up very fast, and we know there's a huge number of expatriates that contribute to the economy. So when you hire from different nationalities and backgrounds and you are hiring, at numbers which outweigh the existing numbers in the organization, what can companies do to really unify a culture and make sure that this new hiring is not going to dissolve whatever they have built as a culture? According to your experience, have you seen that and what has worked?
I have seen that a lot, and especially dealing with startups. The startups, it starts as a family. It's more different, the culture between the 10, 12, 40 people. And then suddenly 3 years to 3 years, this is becoming big. And they are still thinking they have the mindset of the startup, although it's not anymore. They become medium and the large organization, and they need to be proactive. They need to be proactive from the beginning, as I said. What are the values and how we want to set up this organization? Where is the vision? And when we say the vision, it's not only the numbers and figures, how they will expand in business, how the organization will look like from human perspective. How do you want your managers to look like? How do you want them to behave? How do you visualize the CEO and the business and the technology within? So I measure the technology because artificial intelligence and everything goes fast. So they need to have in the organization, and especially in change and transitions, people should have the mindset of the resilience, to move fast, to reflect often, to consider failures as learnings, to move on, to be curious, create innovation. Otherwise, if they don't get out of their comfort zone and learn and be part of the culture of the organization, that I allow you to experiment. I allow you to learn from failures. And it's okay. Be accountable. Share your vision in a very healthy environment. And you will see how this culture will be aligned and unified, the national cultures of everybody. And I can give you an example. When I was in this, it's Nielsen, the biggest market research company that I used to work. We studied the organizational culture of 8 countries. We had 800 people in the sample from Eastern Europe, Middle East, Africa region. And we used one of the most well-known cultural models to define the culture that we had. Comparison to the business effectiveness survey. And then we realized that the culture of Nielsen, it was more or less the same in all countries. And they were stronger from the result of that model. We used the Hofstede model, that it was for the countries. For example, in Egypt, the Hofstede model, the characteristics were different from the Egyptians in our office. We created the culture of Nielsen, how the people behave, think, beliefs, and assumptions were above the national. Why? Because of all this diversity and the systems within and the mindset of the people were very different from the average national company. And I think this is what is happening also in UAE. We are so many that we learn to respect. We are so many religious colors, diversity. We learn to live with different cultures, right?
Yeah, I mean, there is that tolerance definitely as part of the culture for everyone.
Yeah. So what I suggest and what I advise the people, the leader, that they create the cultures and they are responsible for the cultures, it's be aligned with the values of the organization, go out of the comfort zone and create the mindsets, the people that you want to have, and align all the behaviors, the values in a system that you can live within.
So set a kind of a standard that you want people to follow, with the permission as well to do certain things, so that you can build that culture of the organization.
Yeah, and they need to lead by example. They need to be ambassadors of the culture that they create.
Yeah. So Maria, if an executive came to you today, and would like to shift their mindset, what's the one mindset shift you would recommend them to embrace right away?
All right, I will tell them empower and influence. Don't have control and authority. So empower and influence. Be vulnerable to strengths. Allow learning and growth, and be accountable. Be accountable, it means take decisions and don't afraid to take decisions, be accountable for that. The decisiveness is not what we want.
So being open, listening, but also if you say or do something, take that accountability for it, right? Don't try to push it on to someone else.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah. I know that I'm really enjoying this and I would love to stay for longer, Maria, but I think, we are coming to the end of this conversation. And so if you had to leave one message to your viewers, what would that message be?
Be curious, get out of your comfort zone, and vulnerability is strength.
I love that. Love that. Thank you, Maria. And thank you to our viewers for listening to us on the growth mindset today and on the conversation with Maria.
Thank you very much, Della. I really enjoy our conversation.